The topic of today's oversight hearing deals with oversight of our federal vehicles, both our own fleet and also lease fleet. And the order of business is going to be as follows. I'll start with my opening statement. I'll yield to other members for opening statements. Then we'll turn to our witnesses. We have 4 witnesses this morning, and we'll introduce them, get them sworn in, and proceed, and then we'll go to questions. So that'll be our order of business. And with that being said, without objection, the chair is authorized to declare recess at any time. And I'll start with my opening statement this morning. One of the great things about our committee is that we look at waste, fraud, and abuse in the federal government. And we have an opportunity to save the taxpayer money, to make programs more efficient, to look at where we can do a better job with public assets. And we focused on a whole host of areas, and just a few of those areas that we've looked at in the past, public assets such as vacant or empty buildings. We're on the verge of saving hundreds of millions, billions of dollars, conferences that were abusively expensive, spending funds that were unnecessary. I know we've saved over $1 billion just in that area. Our committees looked at duplications and IT equipment, data center consolidation. We spend $50–60 billion there and found half of that money wasted. So today we're focusing on another area. These are some, you might term them meat and potato hearings, but I think it's one of the most important responsibilities of Congress. Look at what we're doing and how we can save money or do it better for the taxpayers. Kind of interesting getting into federal vehicle fleet and how it's managed and operated. It sounds like a small operation, but in fact, the federal government spends over $4.4 billion a year and has probably the biggest vehicle fleet in the world of 650,000 vehicles. Some of those are our own, some of those are leased. The federal government's fleet mileage exceeds 5 billion miles per year. And we consume and spend $400 million just on fuel in that fleet. So it's a pretty sizable operation. And almost every agency has either owned by the government or leased vehicles. Roughly a third of the federal fleet is leased, while the remainder is owned. We've seen some reports that indicate that between 2010 and 2014, more than 2.5 million, 2 to 4 to 2.5 million, in fraud recoveries occurred from federal fuel credit card abuse. Got a picture of this federal fuel credit card. I think that's being changed out as we meet today, but we issue those cards, and in that short period of time, we've detected about $2.5 million in fraud and recovered some of that. Fuel card waste and vehicle underutilization are part of the problem we've seen with the fleet, and we've got to pay attention to, again, all losses that the federal government occurs with this fleet. GAO recently found that 2/3 of the agency's leased vehicles did not meet annual mileage criteria. That means they weren't traveling or being used to a satisfactory level that is established by the government, and under federal property regulations that we set for like the minimum utilization that would justify leasing. In fact, we found, and we didn't conduct all the reports, but we have two reports we'll focus on today. First, we've got a GAO report, which is issued in January of this year. Federally leased vehicles. Agency should strengthen assessment processes to reduce underutilized vehicles. So this is some of the investigation that was done by GAO. And then we have a document prepared by the Inspector General of Amtrak. And this is titled Asset Management and its Observations on Vehicle Fleet Management. And I'll quote from both of those. This is, again, their findings and part of what we're going to look at in this hearing. The GAO found that half the federal vehicles that they examined in May of 2015 travel less than 600 miles that month. While the management of federal vehicles is highly decentralized across individual agencies, the fleets that GAO looked at and several inspector generals have identified, they all found problems with agencies' performance of the management responsibility for these fleets. Agencies that GAO most recently reviewed have not, and we've looked at those agencies have not consistently followed best practices, such as one of the most important things is conducting a cost-benefit analysis for the basis of determining whether to buy or whether to lease. I think we have a slide showing leased vehicles. In a sampling of just a handful of these agencies, and again, I refer to the report, they looked at 4 agencies. GAO found that 1 in 10 or 1,500 of the leased vehicles really weren't justified in having in the inventory. But the agency paid $5 million for these vehicles in a single year. Now, this is just a sampling of 4 agencies, and you see them up there: National Park Service, Veterans Health, Air Force, Bureau of Indian Affairs. Now, in the sampling they took, if you apply that to the entire number of federally leased vehicles across the government, we have wasted in the neighborhood of $80 million annually through bad lease fleet management. So we've leased vehicles that we don't need. When we lease them, we don't drive them or utilize them to their maximum. So there's a lot of money being wasted, and GAO found that in their report. The owned fleet is another story, and the Government Accountability Office is currently conducting an audit for the committee on this topic. I'm sure we'll be following up on that with another hearing or at least an inquiry. Today, I'm pleased to announce that GSA will have a new management agreement with Amtrak to save taxpayer dollars on many of Amtrak's leased vehicles. This is significant news because, unfortunately, and again, this is not just something I'm saying, but if you look at the report that we have from Amtrak, conducted by their Inspector General, and we'll have him here to talk about it. But this report details some troubling history of Amtrak's management and leasing and operations of its fleet. In some instances, Amtrak was spending nearly $4,500 more than what it could have been paying through GSA when they leased vehicles. We found, again, that Amtrak's, well, not we, but the Inspector General found that Amtrak's fleet is also subject to severe underutilization and weak fuel card oversight. We have also some slides that we can show. Many vehicles just sat idle, not only for months, but for sometimes not even driven for a year. In May of last year, there were 153 Amtrak vehicles that consumed less than 15 gallons of fuel for a month that was examined, 26 of which were Amtrak police vehicles. 2 were SWAT vans. I think one of the SWAT vans, if you've got it up there, it doesn't appear it moved or was driven for a year. We know some of these assets are infrequently needed to deploy, but again, we have a significant fleet and we have significant expenditures and losses. It appears that Amtrak has also, and this is from the Automotive Fleet Report from their engineering department, February 2nd, 2016. In that month, it showed vehicles showing no fuel purchase for the month, 138 vehicles. There's no fuel at all purchased for them, which means a lot of those vehicles were underutilized. It remains clear that proper fleet management practices at all agencies, big and small, can save significant amounts of money. Today we'll hear both from GAO and we'll also hear from the Inspector General and from Amtrak representatives and others on how improvements in federal management of vehicles can move forward. Amtrak has taken some steps to correct some of their deficits that have been uncovered, and we'll hear about that too. We'll also hear how GSA and Amtrak have executed their management responsibilities and what they have done or will do to address some of the problems that have been uncovered by both GAO and the Inspector General. I look forward to hearing the testimony from all of our witnesses. I'm pleased to now yield to the ranking member, Ms. Duckworth. Welcome.
Thank you.